Hi guys, and welcome to the Voice of AI. My name is Chris Plant. It's time now for a tutorial in Photoshop Generative AI. Let's look at using AI in property, luxury homes, and real estate. So I guess the first question is, why invest in Photoshop and AI? Number one, can Photoshop AI and generative fill really help in photo retouch in the real estate market? Well, I would say yes, absolutely. There are a few things that need to be ironed out. For instance, I would really appreciate to have control net involved in Photoshop, because that would really help get a lot more control on what we want to do on a generative fill. It's really easy for fantasy, but sometimes to get exact images is far more difficult. So here we are with our real estate image, and it's a quaint little English cottage. And what we're going to do here, first of all, is we're going to try a generative fill here to say brighten to a summer feel. And this is how AI is sometimes. That's a sandy dune, but it's really, and some nice grass there, but it's really totally changing and altering the appearance of the cottage. So we can't use any of those. What we normally would do in this stage here is we would just select with the manual select wand here, the outer areas where we want to just exchange the color of the foliage and the trees, the whole sort of greenery here. And we would just deselect that window as well. But what I like are the tools are adapting really well now within Photoshop. And if we just go to the selection tool here, we can actually make auto selections as well, which is really quite useful. So you can see here I can click on the house or the sky. So the sky's already cropped very, very well indeed. So what we're going to do is we're just going to colorize the sky with the hue and saturation. So let's just raise the hue, saturation a little bit, and lightness, just adjust the hue there a little bit. And it's good to just do it by eye until you get a nice sort of feel here. Probably what I'm going to do now is I'll open up the vibrance tones here as well. So we'll do vibrance and we'll add saturation. And saturation, of course, brings in a lot more color into it as well. So now we've got a really nice blue effect. It's a bit over the top for the photograph, but what we've got to do is now select the foliage again here. And you can see that the selection tools are really great now. You just get that pink outline and you can just select where you wish. So now we've got the selection of the background here, and we can start just opening up our colorization tool. So let's open that. Here we go, the selective color. So now what we do is we change the colors to neutrals, and we can start taking down the cyan. We can just play with the magenta, take that down a little bit as well. We've upped the yellow, a little bit more cyan out. And then what we're going to do now is we go to the greens, and we're going to do the same. We're just going to put the cyan down a little bit. We're going to put the yellow a bit higher and drop down the magenta. Let's just play with that yellow a little bit as well. And we just go to the yellows, and then you see what happens if I up the magenta, then I lower the magenta. The magenta really makes the color stand out now because we've lowered that right down. So we're getting a really good summer feel now. And then we just go back into the neutrals as well, and look at that tone there. And now we can just sort of play with that a little bit until we get a nice summer feel. So it looks a bit more summery now. Okay, so that's good, and we're just going to play with the brightness as well to make it a little bit more palatable. And you can see these are the ways that you normally would retouch the photography that you get. And that's why Photoshop is so useful to do this. So what we've done now is we've colorized our setting, and everything looks quite nice. We're just going to raise the brightness a little bit here as well, and just play with the contrast slightly. Just to get a perfect tone. So I'm quite happy with that now. What I'd like to do now is just show you the difference between the original and this one now. So let's just click on the original. There it is. And you can see that it's quite dull, quite gray. And we just go back to our new version. And you can see that looks a lot more summer feeling. And you can see that in a brochure or a magazine, or you'd be more attracted to this property, of course. So this is the traditional method. It works very well and does a good job. So here we go. We're going to now select the house. So let's just select that house area as well. So we can just get hold of that now. And we're just going to raise up the tone. Have a little look now. We can darken that a little bit as well, just to make that stand out more, give it a bit more sort of background. You can see if I go right the way down, it goes completely black. And look, if you look at close up at the building, you can see the different tones there as well. So what we've done is we've just lowered that down now. And I think that looks quite nice. So let's just come out of there now. Okay, we'll just put the selective color on for the building. And we can see that is quite good. We put the neutrals on. We just take the yellow down. That's good. And then we'll take out the cyan as well, which takes the greys out, pop a little bit of magenta in to get that sort of English brick feel back again. And there we go. We've got some sort of tones there that would be quite nice. Perhaps it's a little bit too over the top, but it's just to give you a demonstration of how it will look. And this is the beginning picture, our start picture, and then you can see the colorization that we've put on there then as well. So it makes it look a lot nicer. So what we can also do now with the generative fill, and this is where I think it could be quite useful, even though sometimes it doesn't work so well, we can draw a shape here and we can put in simply, let's have a classic car part there. Look, there you go. Got a classic car. Now, sometimes of the 3 pictures, you obviously get some ones you don't like. I really like this black car here, so that fits really nice in the driveway and looks very good indeed. Number 2, does Photoshop Generative AI make editing photos easy? And could it help to sell a property? Well, absolutely. And if you don't use Photoshop for your retouching, or your agency uses it for retouching, then you're making a big error anyway. Okay, so here we are on a nice, lovely property in the US. What we're going to do now is do our traditional crop, where we're just going to select the sky. So we go across the buildings, we don't really mind at all. We'll try the generative fill and we'll put in a nice blue summer sky. And you can see straight away that we get it, but at a cost. Look at the difference between the layers now. You can see that it's recreated the top of that house. And that's what AI does, and that's why it can be so helpful. But in these cases, not really. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll do another selection of beautiful summer sky again, and we'll select for a second test. So let's do that again now. And you can see, look, we've got a great sky. We've got remnants of the house. But if you just toggle between them, you can see we've got a lot of extra things. We've got trees in the background. We've got a bit of house there. We've got some other house. So that's not going to be ideal at all. So ideally, I could have probably retouched this and put the sky in myself, but I'm going to go forward with this. Let's rasterize the layer quickly. And that means we can retouch on top of it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select the clone tool here, and that will allow me to just simply use the selection on this layer and just copy the clouds, clone them all the way across. So you see I'm just cloning the sky, cloning these parts here, just getting rid of these slowly. You can do this obviously a lot better than this. This is just a quick overview. And look, you can see here that I've actually now got the touch of the house. I've put a bit of the sky in, so it's a much nicer sky, which is quite good. So it's a much nicer sky, but you can see that the roof has got some issues on there as well, where it's not particularly straight. And this is obviously can come from the automatic selection tool. And usually you do this with much more care and probably make paths for this. But I just wanted to show you how this would work. So what we can do though, is we can go back to our original layer. You can see the differences of the sky. We can go back to our layer, and this area here, we can just copy our original, get our original selection. So if we come back down here to the background and make a selection on the background level. So let's just make that selection here up here. We'll just go to the selection. There we go. We've got the selection of the sky. We just paste that. Now what we'll do is we'll invert that. We'll invert that image now, and then we'll copy simply the background, and then we'll paste that directly on top here. So you can see now that, there you go, we've got the bottom part of the image that we've selected, and we've pasted it on top of the sky now in this new layer 1. So that will just tidy up the roof. You can see there that the roof is nice and tidy now. Firstly, the old image here, and you can see then the new image as well. So you can actually do anything you want with the backgrounds, and obviously the lawn looks quite nice on this picture. Number 3, can Photoshop help with creating stunning images of luxury houses or properties? Well, absolutely yes. As I said before, it can really help retouch. So you definitely need to be looking into using Photoshop more often. And you need to make sure that it's really top quality and the results are first class. Okay, so here's another real estate picture from somewhere outside. Now, I wanted to retouch a bit of grass on here and do a few things, but what I've done is I've selected the terrace first one. I'm going to do a generative fill. We're not going to select anything in this generative fill. We're just going to press OK. Okay, right, so you can see that these are vertical planks now. The second one is grass, and the third is just some sort of dirt area. But this one looks quite nice, but you can see I can't really control it, and this is why I need a control net. But anyway, I can see the side view here, and I can select that, and I can retouch in there. But I think, again, generative AI doesn't help me so much here. Let's just try another one here. Let's try new outside style horizontal floorboards to see if we get a better result. So we've still got the same selection area. It's not quite perfect, but it will do just for this test. So let's have a quick look at what we're going to get out of here. Okay, right, so this one is interesting. Okay, they're horizontal, that's good, but we've got some sort of weird stuff going on, I guess, around that tree. Now we've got some generic, and again, we've got the vertical ones. So it's kind of interesting, a bit of a mix, not really much I can use here, but very interesting to see what kind of reaction we get. But I think this is my favorite. If I was going to use something, I'd probably use this one. But again, I would really do the decking and the whole floorboards probably manually. There's no reason to use the generic Photoshop on this particular version. So let's have one last try here as well, and we'll use the vertical floorboards, and let's see what comes out here again. So the first one is quite interesting. The second one works too, and the third one also, but it's really, again, very much taking into account the surroundings of the image and using the AI generative fill on the basis of what the rest of the image is. So it's not really improving the image as I can see in this particular one. And, you know, of course I can use lightness, darkness, I can do some different tonal things, but it's not going to make it look any better. But of course it's maybe a help, but usually I would probably retouch this in a different manner. But again, it's showing you what is possible and where to use generative fill and where perhaps not to use generative fill. Number 4. Should I invest into Photoshop, and if so, why? Well, absolutely, because it really does help make your images stand out, and that's going to just boost your sales. So if you want to get your property sold, you need to have excellent photographs. And it's not just all about the photographer. Usually your photographer will do the retouches for you, but you know, quite often it comes to the point where you might have to take your own photos or get somebody else to do it for you. Now on this particular image, now we've got this kind of area where there's a bungalow here. This small one-level house. We're just going to select around it, and you can see that everything's pretty brown. It's obviously very sun-drenched here, but we're just going to make a selection here. Let's just pop that back into the middle as well. And with the generative fill, we're just going to click it, generate, and see if we can just, what would come back of that, and let's see what we'll get straight away to just see how that generative fill might work. Okay, so you can see here we've got our 3 versions. The first one is simply just taking away the garage area and the land. The second one is like a floodplain, and the third one is also some sort of path there. So you can see that, you know, we haven't got much luck out of that one at all. But let's take the same fill and let's try it again and put it in a command now. So lush grassy land, let's generate that as well. And obviously this will give us a much better result. I just wanted you to see it. So, okay, the first one is interesting. The second one is better, but I don't know where those little streams have come from on the outside. And then the third one is quite good as well. So you can see that you can get some help on that. But of course, the bungalow image itself, you can see that it's cut a little bit. So what we'd have to do is select that. We've obviously lost the other things on the area, the garage, etc. But if you wanted to show it without, you could. And these are just the ways that goes there. So let's just select the house, and we'll make another layer here. So you can just make a quick layer here as well. So let's just add a new layer down here at the bottom, and we'll just call that house. There we go. And we can just paste that straight on top of that layer placed in place. And now when you switch that on, you'll find that's okay. What we'll do as well is we'll select that barn area as well, or that garage, whatever it is there. And we will also paste that onto a separate layer as well. And you can see now we've got that on top. So you can see you can bring all the images back onto the top and keep the grass as well. So let's just show you what would happen if I wanted to do some sort of fantasy image here. So what we can do is let's just put this in a fantasy space type style background, and you see how much easier it is and how better it is. Of course, for real estate, it's not going to help, but have a look at what's possible. It's pretty interesting, right? The 3 things, we put it into space. Now it's taken some parts of the grass. Now you can see how this could work from a fantasy perspective. And look, you've got little things like this in the corner here, this old car, for instance. We can just simply remove that. Let's put that in there, just remove that area. Okay, there we go. Let's have a look at this then. Number 1, you just see it's kept the same shape. Let's select that whole area now, and let's just completely give it a generative fill. So take out, let's take out the fence and the mud. Okay, let's generate that as well. Okay, right, well, that's really interesting. What have we got there? A tractor. Okay, so that's really cool because the generative AI has understood that I want to remove the mud or take it out. I didn't say remove, I said take out. So it's actually given me some objects that actually would be there to physically remove it. So that's really interesting too. I like that. So let's just do it again now, and let's just give it a direct order, which is, we could use remove, but let's just generate now and see how it performs generatively and see what we will come up with here. And let's zoom out a little bit. You can see that we've got our 3 areas. So it's just finished off the edge of the house there, so you can choose whichever one you want. I think that one's okay. And then we've got a very interesting image there as well. So here's our original image, and you can end up with all sorts of things here as well. So it's great for fantasy and it's great for building, but generative AI needs a few more steps to go into the top level market to be able to retouch on a real estate level. But it's very helpful for using if you are a professional Photoshop expert, because you'll be able to manipulate it and use the generic fill where and when you feel it likely to be used. And if you're not, you'll be able to use the generative fill to help you out, to make things look a little bit nicer and to tidy things up when you wish. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching the video. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel for more AI related content and tips, and join me on the journey to unlock the potential of AI. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. All the very best. I'm Chris from the Voice of AI. Cheers and bye-bye now.